Hello and welcome to Teen Success Academy. Good to have you here, and I believe it's in order to say welcome to the Thrive family. Welcome and welcome. If you have been wondering what is going on with your teenager, if you have been wondering why your teenager is recently pulled away, your teenager is appearing to be anxious and sometimes even unmotivated, and it feels like you are speaking a different language from your teenager, I want to tell you that you are not alone. There are a lot of parents who feel like they are losing their child to what is today a very noisy and confused world. And I can tell you that for free that the world we live in is very noisy and is confused. But the truth is this: your teenager is not lost, they are simply searching. And today I want to show you exactly what it is that they are searching for, and of course, how to help them find it. I'm going to show you how you can help them find what they're searching for. In this video, we're going to uncover 7 hidden struggles that every teenager goes through. And this list is by no means exhaustive, but we're going to deal with 7 critical struggles that teenagers secretly deal with, sometimes even unknowingly dealing with those struggles. I call them the 7 crises of adolescence. All right, 7 adolescence crises. I'm going to uncover that for you. And of course, I'll show you a clear practical framework that you can adopt to help your teenager to go from just surviving adolescence to thriving in their teenage years. And so, if at any point in this conversation today, if at any point you think that your child needs more than just pep talk, you think your child needs mentorship, you think they need coaching, you think they need structure, or you think they need a community, a very strong community, I encourage you to stay with me to the end of this video. I will introduce you to the Thrive community, the Thrive framework, and the Thrive Leadership School, and how all of this is helping a lot of families like yours and young people like your child. So let's get into it. Why are teenagers drifting? Why are certain teenagers drifting? What are these 7 crises that make teenagers drift? Let us begin with a reality check. Your teenager is not lazy. Your teenager is not broken. Your teenager is battling with these invisible crises, and like I said earlier, probably even unknown to them. And then most adults never care to talk about these issues that young people are going through. Maybe because some adults are still dealing with it in themselves, who knows? But a lot of us as adults do not get to talk about these issues that young people are facing. The number one is identity crisis. It is the first demon that every young person must face, every young person must confront, the demon of identity crisis. And it is more so in this generation because we have social media, we have all of these influences from external sources that are bombarding the minds, the thoughts, and the hearts of young people. Social media tells them that you're not enough. And then you go to school, the school tells them that you ought to be better, you ought to do better, you ought to get more grades, and do all of that. So they start to measure their worth by social media likes, social media follows, or they measure their worth by academic performance, by how much grades they have made, and things like that. While the grades are not, of course, a bad thing, they are not, but all of this becomes labels that they attach to themselves. And quite frankly, there are some of these labels that even you as a parent might have put upon your child unknowingly in a bid to train, in a bid to challenge, and all of that. So young people are going around with all of these challenging labels, all of these labels that they struggle to connect with, they struggle to relate with. But the thing is, identity is not something you achieve. Identity is something that you receive. So your teenager has to be at that place where they are equipped to receive their identity. I tell young people that you don't create an identity, you discover an identity, you unearth an identity. So it's an introspective process where you dig deep into yourself and uncover what it is and who it is that you are. So in the Thrive Code, in the Thrive Leadership School, we help teenagers to root their identity in truth and not just trends. Okay, we talked about this thing about truth and trend, not just vibes, not just the reigning thing, not just what any other person says about you, but to uncover and to receive for yourself the identity that you were born with, the identity that you were created with, and the purpose that you were created for. That's what the identity crisis is about. And if your teenager is unaware about it, every child at a certain age will go through the phase of identity crisis. Most adults are, in fact, still dealing with it. The second crisis is the crisis of affinity. We call it the affinity crisis. The question here is, who really cares about me and where do I belong? At a certain age, your child seeks belongingness outside of the home. So if you did everything right, they already feel belonged at home. They already have a sense of belonging at home. And that is if you did everything right. If you didn't do everything right, then there are bigger issues there. But my point is that even if you do everything right and your teenager has a sense of belonging at home, at a certain age of that child, they're going to desire belongingness outside of the home. They're going to desire friendships, they're going to desire relationships, they're going to desire acceptance at school, they're going to desire acceptance in certain social circles. And when they don't find it, they are lonely even in the crowd. They are lonely even when they are surrounded by people. They crave real friendship, they crave authentic connections, they crave real intimacy on several levels, emotional intimacy primarily. Okay, but oftentimes they settle for shallow relationships just because they want to fit in. So they chase attention instead of affection. And this is where you as a parent come into play, because I said if you did everything right, they should have a sense of affection and connection at home. But even that is not enough, because we all want to feel like we belong to something bigger than our nuclear connections. And so what we teach young people is how to attract deep, meaningful relationships into their lives, how to connect with people on a deep level, on that level that satisfies the human craving for connection, the human craving for affection. And even when they navigate relationships with the opposite sex, your teenager in a Thrive circle, in a Thrive leadership school, will be equipped to understand how to navigate those relationships effectively, such that it empowers them as a person and not uses them as a tool for some other ends that it might be. Number 3 is the autonomy crisis. Autonomy crisis is really about decision making. And your teenager, the question here is, can I make my own decisions? And this is where a lot of parents clash with their teenager. Now, your child is an independent human being. Over the years, from infancy to toddler stage and early school, you have called all the shots. But as a teenager, your child is beginning to develop an identity. They are beginning to develop their will. And they are going to want to test that development. And so they want to be able to make their own decisions. They want independence. And you know it. If you're listening to me up to this point, you know it and you can relate with it, that your child, your teenager, craves independence. However, the challenge with this stage of the adolescence crisis is that if the child lacks tools for real responsibility, then they're going to be desiring independence that they are not equipped for, that they are not prepared for. So they do two things. They either retreat or they rebel. So if you have a silent teenager, the one that does not argue with you, don't rejoice that, oh, you have a good child, because there's also the danger of raising a good child. That child might just be retreating. Because, of course, if I cannot make my own decisions in this relationship, then why bother? But the other extreme is that when they are not retreating, they are rebelling. They are telling you, I want to do this my way. And you would have seen early signs of this even at toddler stage. Your 4-year-old is going to tell you that they want to put on their underwear by themselves. They're going to tell you that they prefer this clothes from this clothes. That is the child testing their will. That is the child testing their decision-making skills. It manifests more in teenagers because now this crisis of autonomy is full-blown. What we do is to show young people that true freedom comes with resilience and responsibility, not rebellion. And so in the Thrive system, the R stands for resilience and responsibility. And we spend a lot of time helping young people build quality decision-making skills that empower them for life, that empower them for the season where they are in their journey to growth, in their journey to development. Number 4 is the destiny crisis. Again, one of those crises that I find even adults still grappling with at later ages in their life. The question with the destiny crisis is about why I am here on earth. Beneath the surface, every man, every human being wants an answer to this question. What is the meaning of life? Why am I here? And so your teenager is also asking that question. If you're not providing avenues for them to ask that question and interact and engage with that question and find credible answers, they are going to want to find those answers in the wrong places. The question is also, does my life even matter? We've had a lot of young persons in this generation doing bizarre things, including taking their own lives, getting hooked on drugs, prostitution, and every form of addiction. It's actually rooted somewhere, somehow, on the subject of identity and destiny. Why am I here on earth? So many young people get lost on screens. They are scrolling away their potential. But what we want to do is to help them reconnect themselves, reconnect their lives with genuine purpose and start to live with intention. So inside the Thrive Leadership School, we walk teenagers through these exact struggles. Like I said, this list is not exhaustive. There are more, but we walk them through these struggles. The next cohort of the Thrive Leadership School is a 5-day coaching program, 5 days of authentic conversations, bold conversations, 5 days of unraveling all of these issues that young people are going through, one after the other, with incredible mentors, very fantastic mentors, of course, led by myself. And we build in them life skills using coaching systems that reawakens their drive, helps them redefine their identity, find authentic connection. And if that is what your child needs, I'll encourage you to stay, because I'm not done. And through the course of this video, you'll find something to help your child. And of course, I'll show you more on how to explore the Thrive Leadership System. The crisis number 5 is probity crisis. Probity crisis is about right and wrong. It's about the definition of integrity for every young person. What is right anymore in the world that we live in today, where everywhere is full of moral gray zones, gray areas? The lines are so blurry that even adults can no longer define for themselves what is right from wrong. You hear people arguing over very, for want of words, forgive my French, stupid ideas that you think would have been common knowledge some 10, 20 years ago. But today, all of those lines have been blurred. And your teenager gets caught in this web. Without a compass, they are easily swayed because the voices are loud. Believe me, the voices are loud. So what we want to do, and what we do, is to teach them how to make decisions based on value and not just vibes. To develop a healthy value system, that compass that guides their decision-making process, that compass that guides their discernment as young people, as sheep in a world full of wolves, that equipment that guides their discernment and help them to thrive. Crisis number 6 is authority crisis. This is about role models. I have often said that what we behold, in this case, who we behold, we become. Who are your children beholding? Who are their role models? Who are the authority figures in their life? The question here is, why should I listen to anyone? And should I even be listening at all? When I decide why I should listen to anybody, the next question becomes, who should I listen to? If your teenager is appearing to be resistant to authority, resistant to correction, resistant to leadership, it is not just pride. I want to tell you today that it is more about pain. It is the pain of a lack of authority because they do not trust easily. And you can take that to the bank. Teenagers are very suspicious because now they're beginning to develop themselves. They're beginning to see that some adults are not really who they say they are. And so they don't trust easily. The question is not a pride issue. That resistance, that rebellion in quote, is a manifestation of pain, is a manifestation of a crisis deep-seated in the heart of your teenager. And we help them rebuild that missing trust. We help them rebuild that trust by modeling respectful leadership that is not based on demands alone. The final crisis on my list is crisis of capacity. The question here is, I know that I'm meant for more, but how? It's not enough to tell your teenager, all right, you're supposed to be this. Can't you see your elder sister or your elder brother, the people that are doing this, do they have 5 heads? Do they have 2 heads? It's not enough to pose all those questions. The thing is, I know that I'm meant for more. I know that I can do this. I know that I'm built with this capacity and this potential. But how? How do I engage? I tell you, it is a silent frustration of a lot of teenagers. A lot of gifted young people are frustrated about how to express that gifting. And you see how we have created some vain avenues for manifesting creativity, for manifesting potential. And the easiest way that this generation has found to express themselves is entertainment. But everybody cannot be entertainers. What happens to those who are not entertainers by design? What happens to them? So like I said, it's a silent frustration, and you really have to help your teenager resolve that frustration. They are distracted, they are undisciplined, they are tired, but they know that they have more to offer, they have more to give. But how do they begin to engage? How do they begin to tap into what is hidden within them? What we want to do is to equip them with habits, mindsets, and a mission to step into greatness. So how do you begin to lead a young person, your child in this case? How do you begin to lead your child out of that drift and into a life of purpose? The good news is that there is a path really out of the drift. At the Teen Success Academy, we have developed what we call the Thrive Code. And it is a transformational experience for young person and helping them to move from confused to confident teenagers. helping them to move from distracted to focused teenagers to purpose-driven young people. Now, the Thrive Code is made up of 6 major pillars. It begins with a truth-based identity. Your teenager is not a statistic. Your young person is not a stroke on the board or on a sheet of paper. Your teenager is a story that God is telling. I often tell parents that God does not have grandchildren. So your children are equally God's children as much as you are. And as much as you like to think that they are another chapter in the book of your life, of your own story, I'm here to tell you today that your teenager is an entire book in themselves. They have their own story. And that story is being told and written by God. The truth-based identity development is to help that young person grow that consciousness and begin to play an active role in the story of their lives and begin to partner with God in telling and writing that story. So we help them answer that question of who I am. In a real sense of it, who are you? Who is your teenager? Who is your son? And who is your daughter? We help them answer this question by anchoring their identity on timeless truths. Truths that are not shaken by trends, truths that are not shaken by vibes, truths that are not shaken by what is the in thing at every moment. Because all of those will change, all of those will fade, all of those will be recycled. But timeless truths are timeless for a reason. And so we help young people anchor their identity on those kinds of conversations. The second pillar is a life that is honor-driven, helping young people to build an honor-driven life. We teach them that honor opens doors that many times even talent will never be able to open. And so they learn to build this life that is driven by honor, first for themselves and honor for every other individual that they get to relate to it. When they learn to respect themselves, to honor themselves, then by default, they are able to extend that honor and respect into every other relationship that they find themselves. It helps them to build friendships and family dynamics that transcend mundane things, that transcend temporary, everyday conversations. An honor-driven life is a strong pillar in building a teenager that is not easily drifting in the times that they live in. The pillar number 3 is about resilience and responsibility. And on this pillar will help young people understand a very basic truth, which is that life can sometimes get difficult. Life can sometimes be hard. And so when life presents its difficulty, that's not the time to throw in the towel. That's not the time to look for where to hang yourself. That is a time to go back and tap into the identity that you have developed for yourself. Your teenager is stronger than they think. And that's something we need to help them realize. That's something we need to help them remember. We help them stop blaming and start building. So they stop looking for who to complain about or what situations in their life to complain about, but they start building responsibility. They start building resilience to be able to face the life that they are given. And they do this by beginning to own their own choices and bounce back from every failure or every setback that they experience. The next pillar is the pillar of intentional living. No more drifting, no more swaying, no more following the bandwagon, but following a goal, following a target, pursuing a purpose. We help young people to set goals, build life habits, and lead themselves with purpose. The whole subject of intentional living is a conversation that we need to rediscover even as adults, and we need to help young people discover that life ought to be lived by design and not just by default, not by trend, not by vibe. So this is exactly what we do inside the Thrive Leadership School. And so if you're tired of nagging, if you're tired of shouting, and if you want to follow a proven path of success for your teenager, I would encourage you to explore the Thrive Leadership System. Somewhere on your screen or in the description of this video, in this page where you are watching this video, you're going to find a link. I want you to click on that link and explore how to enroll your child in the Thrive Leadership School, because this will be the reset that they need for building their life. The 5th pillar is the pillar of value, and this is about value-based decision making. We help young people build a decision-making system that helps them survive trends and tides of everyday life. So we train young people to ask questions like, is this wise? Not just, is it fun? Because sometimes a young person, because of the emotional nature of their brain, will first of all look for fun before wisdom. But we train young people to ask the question, is it wise? Rather than, is it fun? Is this the best use of my time? Is this the best investment of my resources? So they develop a personal code of honor. They develop a personal code of value that helps them in their decision making. A code that they will actually live by because they will own the system. It will become their own system that guides their life. The final, then sixth pillar of this system is the pillar of excellence. We also call it the pillar of eternity. And this is about viewing life from an eternal perspective. I like to think that that perspective is an excellence-based perspective. When young people understand that life is bigger than as it appears, because remember, the subject about identity is that every human being wants to be connected to something that is bigger than themselves. So we want to help young people understand that they are living for something bigger and connect them to that thing bigger. So they are living for something bigger than social media likes, for instance. They are living for something bigger than compliments, flattery, and all of those. They start to show up differently the moment they gain this understanding. They show up every day with an understanding that my life has a direction, my life has a purpose, and my life is transgenerational. Because as an adult, one of the reasons you make certain kinds of decisions is because you know that your decisions are going to affect more than just yourself. And that is a capacity that naturally does not come to young people. So they have to be guided, they have to be taught. And once they have this understanding, like I said, they show up differently and they begin to give their best to every activity in their life. They take their life more seriously and they become more excellent on purpose. I like to call it excellence on purpose. That's what the Thrive Leadership System is really about. The next cohort of the Thrive Leadership School is a 5-day program, coaching sessions, leadership sessions, introspective sessions, reflective sessions that will help them develop into the kind of teenager that you desire and the kind of adult that you desire to raise. So maybe your teenager feels far gone as we speak and as you listen to me, but I want to tell you that it's not too late. Maybe your home currently feels like a battlefield. It is not too late. Or maybe you just want to raise a strong young leader and you're needing help to do it correctly, to do it rightly. Whatever stage that you find yourself, wherever you are, wherever you find yourself in this conversation, you don't need to do it alone. You don't need to walk the journey alone. You can get parent partners like us and we will walk the journey with you. Every day for 5 days inside the Thrive Leadership School, we mentor teenagers in identity, in discipline, in relationships, in purpose, in emotional strength. And we help them develop what I call the 360-degree leader that your teenager ought to be. And we have seen this happen. We have seen teenagers grow from silent to self-aware. We have seen teenagers grow from lazy to leadership. All right. We have seen teenagers grow from being stuck to feeling strong and authentic and showing up in their authentic self. So we're opening up a new cohort pretty soon, and the details, like I've said earlier, will be somewhere in the description of this video or on the page where you have picked up this video from. The next session starts very soon. I will encourage you to not wait for another crisis in the life of your teenager. Take action today. Click on that link. Help your teenager to not just survive, but to thrive. My name is Chiedozie, and it's been an honor having you in this conversation. I am an author and teens coach and the founder of Teen Success Academy. I'll see you on the inside.